Hello, my dear ones. We were discussing about the Mughal court, about the grandeur, about a grand scene that could be visible in the Mughal court, and all whatever we are studying, that is a description by Abul Fazl, who tells us in detail about the happenings, about the incidents, and about the administration of that time. In the last lecture, we had discussed about the capitals, because the Mughal capitals were always on move. Mughal capital, Mughal army, they were most of the time they were on move. We left the topic here, we are continuing it from the same point. We talked about Babur, the Lodi capital of Agra, took over, and after that, when Akbar came to the throne, when Akbar had the reins of Mughal empire in his hand, he built a red sandstone fort in 1560 at Agra, and it is said that these red sandstones, they were brought from the neighboring areas from different parts of the country. He asked the architects to collect all these stones, and then a red sandstone fort was constructed. Then in 1570, he shifted his capital to Fatehpur Sikri. And I told you that there was a reason behind it, because Akbar and some of the other Mughal rulers, they had a connection with the Sufi Silsila. And Akbar was very frequently visiting as pilgrimage the Dargah of Muinuddin Chishti, Ajmer. So Fatehpur Sikri was made as the capital because it was because a direct road was there to reach to Ajmer, to reach to the Dargah of Muinuddin Chishti, Sheikh Muinuddin Chishti. It is also noticed that through the Chishti Silsila, these Mughal emperors, they were close to Sufism, they were close to all these pilgrimage centers, and Akbar built a white marble tomb in memory of Sheikh Salim Chishti. These are all your 1 mark question. And this tomb was constructed next to the majestic Friday Mosque over there. So Akbar also took up these architectural activities and became very famous later for all these architectural achievements. With that, there is also a Buland Darwaza, and the Buland Darwaza, as we know, it is famous for its gateway, Buland Darwaza. That is a massive structure of the gateway, and this was built so as to signify and so as to tell the people the victory of Gujarat, the northwest, about which we were talking in the first lecture also, the northwest, the conquest of Gujarat by the Mughal emperor. So Buland Darwaza, these are all your 1 mark question. Then again there was a shift. Shah Jahan, how can we forget his name? Because we discussed earlier also that Shah Jahan loved architectural activities, and for that, through the fiscal policies, through the other policies of taking taxes, he wanted to earn more and more money, and the only aim was to construct maximum buildings. Actually, constructing the buildings was one way for the Mughal emperors to become famous, to show their strength, but it was also a matter to show their piety, because when the buildings were built, so many people were involved in that economic activity and they were employed. So both the sides were very fruitful for them. This ruler, Shah Jahan, he shifted his capital to Shahjahanabad, an old area of Delhi. Shahjahanabad, along with the beautiful markets, beautiful bazaars, and the area of Chandni Chowk. With the Chandni Chowk, we will study later in this chapter that Gulbadan Begum, she is also, and actually she designed the Chandni Chowk, the area in Delhi. So the capital was again shifted to Shahjahanabad. So shifting Mughal court, shifting the army, shifting the capital. So this was going on very frequently during the Mughal period. Then we come to topic 6.2, and that will tell us about the grandeur of the Mughal court. In the Mughal court, the main stress was given to the throne, that is called the takht, the throne. And the kings, you know, when there was the entry of the king, it was celebrated with a drum beat, and everybody, everybody looked at it, and they hailed the presence of the king in the court. In the court, the ranks to the officials could be seen according to the sitting arrangement. Means the officials, the nobles who were sitting next to the king, means near to the king, near to the Mughal emperor, they were having a good position in the court, the position of the nobles. And vice versa, those who were sitting they were not sitting close, but they were far off from the king's throne, they were of the next category. So like this, the categories were assigned to the officials. There was system of sizda. Whenever people entered in the court and the king is sitting, there was sizda, people had to bow down. We talked about it previously also, that lot of stress was given that people should consider the importance of the emperor, the importance of the king, respect to the king. There were different symbols and signs that were adopted at that time. These included sizda, and during the later Mughals, during Jahangir and Shah Jahan, it was also connected with the taslim and zameen bos, that is kissing the earth, giving all the respect to the king. Then there was a Persian tradition also, clasping a hand next to the chest and then bowing before the king. Bowing before the king means that we respect you. Then all those who entered into the court, they had to do all this thing. There were symbols and signs of respect. There is an incident by Abul Fazl that in 1560, when Sir Thomas, 1600, when in 1600, Sir Thomas Roe, the representative, the ambassador of James I, 1 mark question again. There are so many 1 mark questions in this chapter. The ambassador of James I from England, he came to the court of Jahangir to seek permission to trade in India. When he went over there, he bowed down before the king and asked for a chair. So everybody was wonderstruck that why he is so daring that he is asking for a chair in the court. So this was not liked by the people. This was not liked by the courtiers. So all these things were prevalent in the court. Now particularly during the reign of Akbar, there was system of jharokha, that is coming to the balcony. Akbar used to wake up in the morning, come to the balcony after the prayers, after the namaz, and in the balcony it was this incident or this ceremony is known as jharokha in history as written by Abul Fazl. And all the people outside the balcony, they used to stand over there. There were peasants, there were workers, there were artisans, there were craftspeople, there were architects, there were different sections of the society. They used to stand outside the balcony and they used to have the jharokha of Akbar, that is darshan. Darshan, as we go to the temples, as we go to the worshipping places for the darshan of the gods, for the darshan of our gurus. But this was darshan or jharokha by the Mughal emperors. Particularly, it was started by Akbar. Many Muslims did not like it, but it was going on. Then, after the jharokha, he used to go to the court, the assembly hall. Again, 1 mark question. Diwan-e-Aam. In the Diwan-e-Aam, the Mughal emperors, or you can say Akbar, used to spend 2 hours or more, listening to the different grievances, listening to the demands of the people, the different activities that are going on in the empire. And after about 2 hours, he used to enter in Diwan-e-Khas. In Diwan-e-Khas, there were special people sitting to meet Akbar. They were addressing to these people. There were discussions on important matters like defense, like army, etc. Means all those important matters which are to be hidden from the common people and they are to be discussed very carefully. So this was Diwan-e-Khas. The court was a place of attraction for the people because certain festivals were celebrated like Ramzan, like Holi was also celebrated during that period of Akbar. Nowruz was celebrated, Persian festivals were also celebrated. So during these celebration, there were total these decorative pieces were festooned to the walls. There were perfumed candles. They were lit inside the court and outside the court, and there was a big ceremony during these festivals, as well as during the lunar or solar birthdays of the Mughal emperors. Solar and lunar, both dates, according to those tiths or dates, their birthdays were celebrated with great zeal and enthusiasm. Then we come to the titles and gifts. Everybody who entered the court or came to the court, they were not supposed to enter empty-handed. They have to carry gifts for the kings, or titles or gifts for the kings. A small amount of money known as nazr, 1 mark question, and if it is a huge amount of money, that was known as peshkash. So empty-handed entering the court was not considered to be good. There should be good presents. There should, like today we go to the other's house and we carry fruits, chocolates, etc. So they used to bring money or other things as gift, jewels, costly materials, etc. They used to bring with them. Titles were adopted. Some titles were earned through good deeds, and some titles were purchased also, like the title of Asaf Khan. It was confirmed on the people. Then the title of Mirza Khan was given to Jai Singh and Jaswant Singh. Titles were also purchased. It is said, according to Abul Fazl, that there was an official Mir Khan. He paid about 1 lakh rupees to one alphabet to be added before his name, that is A, to become Amir Khan. Only one alphabet, A, 1 lakh rupees for that. So some of the titles were purchased also. We will discuss about all these things again in the next lecture. Prepare your notes, and particularly all the 1 mark question, that today there are so many 1 mark question in this discussion. So you can do it in the last chapter of your second book. We are doing the 9th chapter. You can prepare your notes, 1 mark question also. We will meet again tomorrow with some new topics for you with great zeal and enthusiasm. Till then, it is a goodbye from me.